everyone, and welcome back to Grammar Down Under. In our last lesson, you remember that we did the 8 parts of speech, and there was an important reason for starting with the 8 parts of speech, because we need to know words like noun, adjective, verb, adverb, preposition, pronoun, conjunctions and articles, so that we can discuss sentences. So building on what we learned last lesson, today we're going to talk about sentences. And these are really important because when you write, often the teacher will be correcting your sentences because there's something wrong with them. So if you understand what makes a good, solid sentence, then you'll be writing much more correctly and your teacher will have to make fewer corrections. So today, a sentence, what is it? Last term, I taught you that a sentence is a clause, though a clause is not always a sentence, which we'll deal with in a later lesson. A sentence has to have a verb and a subject. They are the minimum requirements for a sentence. Most times, it also has an object, and I'll teach you how to find those parts of a sentence. If we look at this simple sentence, Jill made a cake. The reason why I taught you the 8 parts of speech is you have to be able to always identify that the sentence has a verb. That's the first rule. The verb is the action part of the sentence, the doing part, thinking, feeling, being. In this case, the doing part is she made a cake. So that is our verb, V for verb. Now, how do we know if that is a sentence? To find out if it has a subject, you have to ask the verb a question. Before the verb, you say, who or what made? And the answer will always be the subject. So in this case, who or what made the cake? Jill. So Jill will be the subject. The verb we've decided is made. We start with the verb, we ask who or what made, Jill made, that's the subject. In this simple sentence, we need to have an object, something that tells us a little bit more about the subject and the verb. Jill made is not a complete sentence. We need the remainder of that sentence, the object. And to find that, we ask questions after the verb. We ask, made what? And the answer to this is a cake. So this simple sentence gets the tick of approval. It is a sentence. It's punctuated correctly. It has a capital for 2 reasons, the beginning of a sentence and the proper noun Jill has a full stop at the end. They're the sentence boundaries that I taught you last term. It has a verb, something action is taking place, made. You ask the verb, who made? If it can give you an answer, Jill made, that's the subject. And you would ask the verb afterwards, made what? If it gives you an answer, it has an object, and the object is a cake. So that's the very beginning of our lesson on sentences, and I'll continue. When you do your writing, sometimes the teacher has to make corrections to your sentences, and that's because you're writing a sentence fragment, just a part of a sentence. Something is missing. Sometimes that will be the subject, sometimes it will be the verb. And you will be able to work that out because you'll be able to ask questions about your sentence and work out what part is missing. The teacher won't have to write in corrections for you. Here we have a sentence, but it's not a sentence. Running down the road. We call that a sentence fragment, and as teachers we often mark students' work where something is missing. So, if the teacher wrote sentence structure or sentence fragment at the side of your work, you have to figure out what's wrong. And the first thing you have to figure out is, does this sentence have a verb? That's the first thing. It has an action word, running. It has a verb. So we can say, well, we're on the way to having a sentence. Remember what I taught you? You ask before the verb, who or what is running? Can you answer that question with this sentence fragment? Who's running? What's running? There is nothing provided. So it does not have a subject. Does it have an object? You ask after the verb, running where? Running where? Down the road. Yes, it has an object. If it is missing part of the sentence, it's not a sentence. It's a sentence fragment. And the teacher will indicate, do something with this sentence. Remember the rules I've just taught you. Find the verb. If you can't find a verb, that's what's wrong with your sentence. Ask the verb. Who is running? What's running? If there's no answer to that question, you haven't got a subject. Ask, running where? Running how? Running why? Ask questions after the verb. Will tell you if you've got an object, running down the road. If there's a cross, particularly in your verb and subject, because sometimes, remember, you don't have to have an object. If there's no verb and no subject, you do not have a sentence. And the teacher will be asking you to improve that sentence and make it a complete sentence, not a sentence fragment. I'm going to teach you how to parse a sentence. That's the word that you need to know. The way that I've been dividing up parts of the sentence is called parsing. Parsing means to identify either the 8 parts of speech in the sentence or the subject, verb and object. So creating another sentence, he swam in the pool. If I asked you to parse this sentence, remember the very first thing you have to look for is the verb. You ask questions before the verb to find out if there's a subject. You ask questions after the verb to find out if there's an object. Let's parse this sentence. The action part of this is swam, past tense of swim. So that is our verb. We've identified the very first thing we need to do when we parse, and it's swam. Remember what we do next to find out if we've got a complete sentence? Who swam? He swam. So we have a subject. We ask questions after the verb to find out if we have an object. Swam where, how, why. He swam in the pool. We have an object. So this is a parsed sentence in terms of subject, verb and object. But I could also ask you to parse in terms of the 8 parts of speech. Do you remember what they are? Let's go. He is a pronoun because it stands instead of a name. We're not saying Bill or Ben. He. Swam, we know, is the verb. In is showing the position. He's not on the pool or under the pool, and a position is a preposition. The pool, I taught you last week, there's 3 articles, the, and an, so that's an article. And pool is the name of something, therefore that's a noun. So in this mini lesson today, we have learnt the structure of a sentence, how to identify that you have the correct structure for a sentence, how to parse that sentence to work out whether you've got all the right parts, and how to understand what each word is in the sentence and divide it up into its 8 parts of speech. The more you can understand these technical terms like subject, verb, object, pronoun, verb, preposition, article, noun, you'll be able to write more accurately. And that's the goal in doing these grammar lessons with you. Thank you.